Hi, this is Tessa Keogh, and this is another 20 with Tessa. Today we're going to be discussing gathering death index data using free birth marriage death index as well as some local records. Now, this video is geared mostly towards the North American audience, and the reason for that is I'm guessing that most British researchers are already completely familiar with free birth marriage death index and use it a great deal in their one-name studies. What I'm going to try and encourage the North American audience to do is to compile the birth, marriage, and death index information into their one-name studies, because this is a really simple way of adding a huge set of data to your one-name study and to be able to address questions that might come to you on the Guild One Name Studies website from researchers all over the world. So I think what you're going to do is find that this is a real easy data set to compile, and I'd like to encourage you to do it. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is go to www.freebmd.org.uk, and when you put this information into your browser, this is going to be the site that comes back, and it's a rather clean site and very simple to negotiate. There's a number of different buttons that you can press on in order to get some more information. The most important thing to know is that registration, civil registration in Great Britain occurred starting in September of 1837, and the records on this data set are from 1837 to 1983. So what you're going to want to do is take a look at the search button and in fact click on it. And when you do that, you're going to be directed to the search criteria. And although you could ask for all types of information, I like to put together Excel workbooks on each particular area, one for births, one for deaths, one for marriages. Today we're going to be working with deaths. So you're going to click on deaths. You're also going to type in your surname information. And today I've entered my primary surname, and what you need to remember is that this is going to bring back an exact search results, and then you're going to want to individually do your variant surnames as well. Now we want all districts and all counties, so we could click on that. And then if you have a large or a rather common surname, you're going to want to click on the count button first, because you're going to want to determine how many results you're going to get. I happen to know that the search results for my Keogh surname are considered small to medium, and so it's not going to be a problem to gather all that information at one time. So I'm going to click on the Find button, and the index quickly does its job, as you can tell. And what comes up is all of this index information from September 1837, and it'll go through 1983 if in fact there are records through that time period. Something else you're going to want to keep in mind as you look at your records is this information shows up and you'll see September, December, March, and June. Those are quarters, because that's how civil registration is done in Great Britain. In any event, we have the information. Now there's a couple ways you can go through downloading this information. However, always take a look at your website and figure out what the easiest or most efficient way to do it is. You don't want to type in this data yourself. What you want to do is click on the download button. And when you do that, it puts together the information and it immediately gives you your search in Notepad view. And I'm sure mine comes up in Notepad because I use Microsoft products and I'm working with a PC. I'm sure there's something that's comparable in a Mac system. Now you're able to see where the information comes from and that there's a Crown copyright on it. You're also able to see that what you did was the type of search was deaths, the surname was Keogh. I asked for all districts, all counties, and these are my results. And if I were to scroll, you could see that I have all of this information. What I want to do is start right with the results and grab it all, scroll through it, and copy and special paste it. Now, if you followed along in the previous videos about free birth, marriage, death index, you know that the first worksheet in any of my workbooks is the instructions worksheet. And this lists the date that I work on the project, my project task, the point of or purpose of the project, which for me is to acquire a complete listing of death register entries for England and Wales for the primary surname and my variants. Then I describe the work that I want to accomplish, as well as the methodology and the status. And what you'll find, and I have mentioned before, is the most important thing, is to get some sense of the numbers that you're going to be working with, and then to list out your methodology and the websites that you're going to go to accomplish your tasks. One other thing that I would point out is that for these indexes, it's very important to also get the information that you want about the counties. And the reason that you want to do this is because, as you can see here, I go to the individual counties to find additional information about my index results. So we grabbed and we copied the information on the primary surname, which was Keogh. And as you can see, that first piece of information was September 1837, and it was for Elizabeth Keogh. It gives us the district that the registration for her birth occurred in, as well as the volume and the page number. I also like to list the source, which was Free BMD Index, as well as the date that I accessed the information. Once I'm finished with that, as usual, I add the reference number so that I have a row of information that contains the information that I looked for, as well as it's a complete record. This is really useful for when you put all of the information in the play reel. And I wanted to show you that I did this data mining activity for my primary surname as well as my variants, and then all of the surnames were placed in the clean copy that I always keep, which is red, as well as my play reel. So as you can see, the one thing that I did here is, rather than keep everything in reference number order, which would just be 1 through whatever the last number is, I've put everything in date order. And you can do that with a sort and a filter. So that done, we know that our first record is in September of 1837. And you'll remember that we had just worked with Elizabeth Keogh, and she shows up here because of the spelling of the surname wouldn't be the first spelling. So it's I've already sorted and filtered by the registration quarter and year, as well as the spelling of the surnames. Now, the thing we're going to talk about a little bit more today is you do have the districts in England and Wales, but the one thing that you don't have is the counties, and there's additional information that you can gain when you know the county that the registration takes place in. Then you could find the local registration indexes. So what I like to do is also, and you'll be familiar with this if you use Excel, is take a look once you have sorted, once you've asked it to filter on a particular column, and so I've asked it to do that, and then you uncheck all of your items here, and basically what it does is list in alphabetical order any data that is listed in this cell. So this is all of my districts, A through Y, that are in my data set now. And then the next thing that you're going to want to do, you want to keep track of those districts, but the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open one other program. The program that you're going to want to open, or the website, is www.genuki.org.uk, and come to the contents page. And what this does is, this is a fabulous website. You need to bookmark this and make it one of your major areas that you go and do research in. This site breaks down UK and Ireland genealogy, and it gives it to you in a very clear format. It also makes it visually quite appealing. So we were at the home page, and now we're in United Kingdom and Ireland. And what I want to be looking at is the England page. So I'm just going to click on that. But depending on what area of research you're doing, you can go directly there and you realize that it's level 2. So we're going to click on the England page, and then as you can see, it lists all of the counties in England, and it gives you a great layout and a real visual of where these counties are located. You also get a sense, certainly if you're not from Great Britain, of where Scotland, Wales, the Isle of Man, and if we were to come over here, Ireland is located. So it gives you a breakdown of the counties, and this is both modern and historical. So you're going to want to take a look through all of them. It also gives you, as you scroll through, and I would definitely tell you to take the time and learn more about it. It gives you information related to all of England, and it's all listed in alphabetical order. And then you can immediately go down to, for instance, if you wanted to look at church records, you'd click on that and it takes you farther down to the page to where church records are located for England. And then you can just click on any of those links. Now, if you want to go back to where you were, just remember to hit the back bar. So in this instance, we're going to be going to Kent, and that's because that is the county that I ended up with when I was previously working on this project. So we're going to click on Kent, and it's going to tell us where civil registration is. So I want to click on civil registration, and then it gives me Kent's registration districts and the towns and villages served by each. So that's the next section we want to click on. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. And as you can see, you have the registration district, which you now should be familiar with, as well as the registration county. It also gives you the time period. Some of these are going to be from 1837 and they carry on through a specific time period, and then it tells you the status of the registration district. And this is that this registration district was abolished in 1941 to become part of another registration district. So that's something to pay attention to while you're working with your records. But the nice thing about this is you can take a look through the registration districts and then you can assign the registration county. Now there might be easier ways of doing this, and I'm certain that a person who's from Great Britain could take a look at any of these districts and just place them into a county, much like, for instance, someone from the state of Washington might know about King County, Snohomish County, Pierce County. But if you're not from that area, you're definitely going to have to just plug through this, one registration district or one county at a time. It's a great way to learn a little bit of your geography, and it's a great way to get your records in order. Now what you're going to want to do when you have your Excel spreadsheet open and you have your registration districts in Kent open is you want to go and click on your arrow, unselect all of the districts, and then you're going to want to go through the districts and add them back in, the ones that apply to us. So we're going to be looking for Ashford to start off with, which we don't have, and in fact the first one that we have is Blean. So I'm going to show you that and you click on any of the ones that you do have. The next one is Bromley, and you're going to go through each of these. Canterbury, and sooner or later, after you've done this enough for your birth, your marriage, and your death records, you're going to become a little bit more familiar with the registration districts. You're going to know what counties they're in, and for us North Americans, we're going to feel like we know a little bit more about England and Wales. So I'm going to go through and add the rest of these in, and I'll tell you in the first instance, you want to stop when you get down to Greenwich here, because then you're going to need to click OK and work on it. You can't scroll through your registration districts and keep this item open. So I'll be back in just a minute after I've done that. All right, as you can see, I went through and tried to determine if any of these registration districts were in the area that I was looking at, and that is Ashford through Greenwich. And we did that, and this is the number that I came up with, 43. And in this instance, you're going to be able to add Kent as the county to each of these. And what we want to do after we've entered that here is we want to go to the right-hand lower corner in the crossbar and carry it down, and it'll add Kent to each of our entries. Then what you're going to want to do is go back into the counties here, and you need to, as you can see, those are still checked, so you're going to want to select all and then unselect them again, and then work your way through with the next set of information. And that's going to be picking up after Greenwich, if I said that right, and picking up with Hollandbourne. And we're going to be doing the same thing of clicking through all of these districts so that we can add them to Kent. Now the one thing you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to pay attention to things like this, because they share a county, and as you can see, this was partly in Kent until a certain period, and then you are going to want to look at your registration information to check the years. Now as you can see, I've gone ahead and done the rest of the districts, and it picked up at Hollandbourne and it ended at Woolwich. We have a few in Hollandbourne, we have a lot in Woolwich, so that's an interesting thing. But in each of these instances, I don't have anyone that was registered in Rye, and I also don't have anyone in Ticehurst. So I'm able to go ahead and put Kent in each of these entries, and this is another instance where you grab the crossbar and you scroll through and you add them to all. Now you have all your Kent district, your Kent county, and as you can probably guess, we're going to go through this and do it for every single one of the counties. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is go back to your instructions, and when you get to the county that we've worked on, you can see here that this is Kent, and that's where I said I was going to pick up. Now I'm able to type in, except I want to change it to automatic color here. I'm going to type in that that one's done, and I'll be typing in the date. So this is the 11th of September 2012, and I'll be picking up in Lancashire. Now one other thing that I wanted to show you here is when you go back through, and we're now at the top of our document again in the play reel, is I already have worked on Lancashire, only, if that's how you pronounce it, only because that was the first local district that came up when I was doing some research. But you can see that Durham's in there as well as Kent, and if you scroll through, you'd basically notice that I have everything through those first counties. So that's how I gather that information, and the reason that I do that is because there's a lot of additional information when you look in the local birth, marriage, and death registers, and that information is usually broken down by counties. So we want to be able to go through at a later date. For instance, here we'd want to take the filter out of the district and say that we were working with a county. Say someone got a hold of us and they wanted everything in all of the deaths in Lancashire, or they wanted all of the deaths, they were going to be doing some research in Cheshire. We'd be able to do a filter and ask for the county that we were interested in, and maybe that's for one of these challenges, or maybe it's someone's going to do research there for us. So I could go ahead and filter on that particular county, and it would bring up everything in Cheshire no matter the district, and it also puts it in date order. So this is a great way of having all of that information at your fingertips due to the fact that Excel does such a great job once you've entered the data of sorting it, filtering it, making it easy to find and select, and realize that you can either grab these as screenshots or you can print out the sheets that you've found. So this is much easier than trying to look for the information in an old hunt and peck method or with a paper and pen method. So I hope that that's basically shown you how I go about gathering that data, inputting it into Excel, and then working with it. So I hope this has been helpful. Remember to go back and make a note of where you need to pick up, and always remember to keep in mind the dates that you did your work. Now you can easily scroll through and get your counties and work it with it from there. So we went just a minute or two over the 20 minutes, but if you have any ideas or questions, feel free to leave me a comment here at YouTube. You can always email me at tessa.keo@one-name.org. You can post in the stream or privately on Google+, and you can always check out the Guild website at www.one-name.org. Be sure to visit the Guild on Facebook or at Google+. Thanks for watching, and all the best with your studies.